The Astros are sniffing around a very intriguing name. Are they actually about to make a deal to go and get that guy? We'll take a look at everything that's been going down in spring training, with the Astros actually having played a couple of games this past weekend. And Ime Udoka keeps on calling out the Houston Rockets. I'm Paul Gallant, and this is the Gallant Says podcast.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people wonder.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
Grow up, are you kidding me? Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast, live on YouTube at Paul Gallant, Twitch at Gallant Says, on X and Twitter at Gallant Says, Instagram at Sports Gallant, and on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. Monday through Friday around 4 p.m. Central Time. You can also get it after major Houston sporting events. It is Monday, February 24th, 2025. There's been some reporting about the Astros potentially kicking the tires on something they tried to do already this offseason, which is trade for Cardinals third baseman Nolan Arenado. But it doesn't seem like there's much to this renewed interest. This is from West Palm Beach, courtesy of Chandler Rome and Katie Wu of The Athletic. Quote, although the Houston Astros re-engaged in brief trade discussions with the St. Louis Cardinals regarding third baseman Nolan Arenado, multiple sources said that no deal is gaining traction, nor has Arenado's thought process changed for now about approving a trade to the Houston Astros. Cardinals president of baseball operations said this on Saturday. I don't feel anything is imminent. I can't comment or chase every rumor. These are conversations that the Astros re-engaged in after Alex Bregman signed with the Boston Red Sox. The Athletic writes that it's a long shot that the Astros acquire him. He blocked a trade to Houston in December. But hey, maybe the conversations have been re-engaged. I don't really want to talk about Nolan Arenado. I really want to know why the Astros aren't looking at outfielders. Why the fuck are we talking about infielders and infielders and infielders and more infielders and infielders playing in the outfield? There are so many goddamn infielders on the Astros right now. And I don't want to sound like someone who hates infielders. It's more, at a certain point, can we focus on outfielders? Because the outfield isn't good. Is that crazy? I don't think it's crazy. Daryl Cox on Twitter says, I agree. Yeah, I think we all should. Greg Little says a Nolan Arenado trade won't happen. It shouldn't, because what are you going to use to incentivize the Cardinals to give you Nolan Arenado, who was an all-star last year, and then pay his contract? Like, what are you going to actually send in exchange for him? I don't know. Spring training baseball conversations, they're frustrating. There's not a lot of stock you can put into the games. There's not a lot of stock that you can really put into anything, even guys looking like they're in shape or working their way back from injury. There's really not a whole lot that you're going to be able to get out of it. But I would like to see them at the very least try a little bit harder to go get an outfielder who's better than the ones that they got out there, to the point that they are actually considering moving Jose Altuve from second base to left field. El Mimo says Nolan Arenado does not want to come here. Supposedly his logic has shifted a little bit, at least based off of one of the reports I saw. He also says 2025 is a punt season for the Astros. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I just want an outfielder. I would like to see them go after an outfielder. I think Greg Little is saying the reason Arenado said no is because of the Kyle Tucker trade, and maybe there were some questions about the direction of the team after they moved on from Kyle Tucker and brought in Isaac Paredes and Hayden and Wesneski and the prospect Cam Smith. That's understandable. There might be something else going on here, but the latest reporting, and again, is it even reporting, is that conversations have at least been had about maybe trying to bring Nolan Arenado back to the table and seeing if he would waive his no-trade clause to perhaps come to the Astros. Whether he will or won't, I just want to say one more time, get a fucking outfielder. Outfield, not infield, outfield. There's so many infielders being brought in. All those guys at second base, Brendan Rodgers, Luis Guillorme. You brought in Christian Walker this offseason. Okay, that's fine. You want to upgrade your first base position. Paredes plays at third. Maybe he ends up playing at second if you bring in Arenado. Really, I just feel tired and worn out seeing this put out there, though, especially when it has nothing to do with where the Astros actually need help, which is in the outfield. They got to make that thing better. What else is going on in spring training for the Houston Astros? It's a good question. A very good question. We're getting the same injury stuff that we've grown to love with the Astros. Did you see that Pedro Leon has left knee discomfort? That's fun. Taylor Trammell has a strained calf. He's in a walking boot. That doesn't add up. Strained calf, walking boot. Ben Gamble has a black eye. No one knows how they got that. And maybe the biggest news as we continue to talk about fucking infielders, Nolan Arenado, not talking about him. I'm talking about John Singleton. Because John Singleton, oh boy, baby. John Singleton is in the best shape of his life. Hell yeah, guys. John Singleton is back. And look what he's doing. He says he's lost 25 pounds by weightlifting and using the sauna 5 days a week. He can now squat 505 pounds, bench press 385 pounds, and deadlift 665 pounds. I don't know how many people have actually seen what John Singleton looks like. And I'm going to put this up on the screen so you can see it. But John Singleton is jacked now, guys. Here's the picture. This is from MLB.com. Brian McTaggart's piece about Singleton. But look at this. Singleton's jacked, dog. He's huge. And he does look jacked there. He definitely looks a little bit better put together than he has in the past. I'm seeing this and I can't help when I hear about bod talk. Does anyone remember this commercial campaign back in the day? Does anyone remember this? It was called Bod Body Spray. And it had these ridiculous commercials where like some girls would be watching guys work out and they'd have this ridiculous sexual grunts in the background, like lady sexual grunts. In case you've never seen it.
Hot bod. B-O-D for me. Check out that bod.
And I don't know why, but whenever I'm hearing about Jonathan Singleton being like in the best shape of his life, I'm just thinking about this terrible commercial. Paul, I know why you're thinking about that commercial. Look at it. It's basically porn for you and the way we believe you lean near Nolan Arenado bod.
Check out that bod. I want your bod.
I don't know why, but this commercial campaign just slayed me. I want your bod. But now John Singleton's got a bod, guys. Jackson Oak says he's jacked. Hell yeah. El Mimo says Jeremy Pena was jacked last year and it still didn't help. True, but John Singleton's jacked now. I feel like all athletes should be jacked going into the year. Some more comments here. Zach says, Paul, you see the new Astros pitcher blue balls with the Astros? Yeah, he's a beekeeper. Or at least he works with bees. Blue ball. Bees. I'm going to look this up. Because again, this is where we're at with fucking spring training. This is a report from Chandler Rome that came out today. AJ Bluebaugh is the honey guy and the Astros' latest small school success story. And apparently, since his dad is a beekeeper, he brings homemade honey to the Astros clubhouse. Quote, I'm kind of known as the honey guy. All right. That's cool. So, yeah, I did see that. Bluebaugh, a.k.a. Blue Balls, who wears number 69, brings honey in. We have some thoughts on John Singleton's new bod. This is going to be an all-over-the-place show, guys. I'll admit it. El Mimo asks, hey, John Singleton can take on steroidus Trapman. Haha, it's funny because a lot of people think he's on steroids. There's a picture that went viral of him last week, and someone clearly photoshopped it, but the actual play-by-play guy for the Texas Rangers felt the need to community note it because it was, I guess, semi-plausible that his head is that big. Jason Wagner says, I'm not going to take credit for Singleton's steroid-infused body transformation, but I did send no less than 300 tweets last year exclaiming how ridiculous it is that $13 million a year can't motivate him to put down a fucking cheeseburger. Hey, it might not be cheeseburgers, and he was a little hefty, that's for sure, but baseball is weirdly the one sport where it's acceptable to not be in shape. I've never understood that with athletes. You would think that, hey, if you're getting paid to do something for a living and it's the only thing you're doing, you're going to be in the absolute best shape you possibly can be in going into a year. And yet, for whatever reason, baseball players, that's not the case. And also, sometimes when a baseball player gets in better shape, it actually doesn't work out for them. Don't you remember what was going on way back in the day? This was with, not way back in the day, I guess. A couple of years ago, Yuli Gurriel, fresh off a batting title and a gold glove, decided that he was going to get in better shape going into the next year. So I guess he stopped drinking soda and eating pizza, and he lost some weight, and he looked like he was in better shape, but it didn't go so well for him. I think he actually took a step back that year. And people were like, oh, he should have stayed the same weight. And I get that argument. Baseball is weird from that perspective, but it would be nice if everyone could get into the best shape they possibly could. El Mimo brings up Patrick Mahomes. He's shaped like a salamander and still plays. Is he shaped like a salamander? I mean, he is a little like dad bod-ish these days. Jason Wagner brings up Bartolo Colon. Yes, there was the Kung Fu Panda. Pablo Sandoval with the San Francisco Giants. Yeah, man, there's been lots of athletes over the course of time, and specifically in baseball, that aren't exactly in the best shape. But yeah, that's what's going on in spring training. They played a couple of games. I think today's game was canceled. John Singleton's ripped, and a bunch of players are dealing with injuries. And I guess the Astros have some interest in Nolan Arenado still, but as far as any progress towards a deal being made, not much. Paul, this has been a riveting show. You're really bringing so much to the table. I know. I'm in this weird spot, and I think everyone that is a sports talking head this time of year, where determining what to talk about is really tough. Because I have to actually be passionate and interested about the things that I talk. I actually was asked the question by a former radio PD who's working on a piece about, like, hey, this time of year, what are the worst topics that you hear? And how do you avoid them? And what's the best way to put out content during a slow time? And I thought I had the answer, which is generally just be what you always are, entertaining, hopefully, and try to find ways to move from one story to the next if it doesn't have a lot of staying power. But I am really wondering about what I am going to do if we're doing this show on a daily basis, because I want to actually be interested in what I'm talking about. I don't really give a shit about Nolan Arenado trade rumors. I more give a shit that the Astros just aren't, for whatever reason, looking to upgrade their outfield. Why aren't they? It would be nice if they did. Jason Wagner with some comments. The weird spot is middle February. If the NBA was worth two shits in a thermal sock, we would talk about the Rockets, I suppose. Yeah, well, we will talk about the Rockets in just a moment. El Mimo asks if I saw that they power washed the roof at Dyken Park. I did, yeah. About time. Would power washing the roof make the air conditioning a little bit better? Probably not, but it would be nice. I'm going to play the pep talk that Joe Espada gave to the Astros to open up spring training. Gotta say, the Astros should not have posted this. Whoever thought this was a good idea to post for the Astros, you fucked up, in my honest opinion. Here's the rallying cry for Joe Espada's Astros going into 2025.
I was reflecting and thinking about, well, I think 2024 was a challenging year for us. We were tested. Our culture was tested. Our commitment was tested. Our grit was tested. Great teams, they get tested. When things get bad, you really see the character and the strength of a team. You guys always have found ways to overcome that. I want to spend a few minutes to talk about leadership. You know what a leader is? That guy over. Because he wants to.
I hate this. I really hate this. Do you know what a leader is? Motherfucker. Do we have to dumb it down because there's no leader after Alex Bregman leaves for the Red Sox and then hits a home run in his first game? Like, do we really need to leadership explain things to these guys? They know. They know what that is. And I'm looking at everybody just sitting around and listening to Joe Espada talk. And I mean, look at this. Everyone's kind of looking around. I mean, they're looking at him, but is this speech that he's giving going to inspire guys to be leader? It's a weird speech.
Because he wants to open the doors to create opportunities for him. That's leadership. Somebody in this room will step up and be the next leader. Not with your performance, you can lead. With one inning, you can lead. Nice. There's so many ways you can step up and lead. Out of bound last year, Spencer, Blanco. Nice. It's here. So we are here for you. We're going to do everything in our power to prepare you to play. Just a reminder of who we are as an organization. 3 things that we do better than any other organization we can pick.
See, I'm spacing out. I'm trying to listen. Is this maybe just a baseball problem? Baseball doesn't capture my attention. Jason Wagner is calling this speech cringe. I mean, it's just boring. And he's talking about leadership, and then he's going back and he's talking about all the things that the Astros do better than everyone.
We can hit, and last but not least, our defense. We care so much about defense that we went and got the best defensive first baseman in the market. The best. Last 5 years. No one is better than this guy. I'm going to leave you guys with this. The next 6 weeks, I want us to take the field and be the best we can be. If we want to play late into October, we have to be good on the baseball field every single day. We're going to do this. Okay? So I wish you guys a healthy spring training, and it starts today.
All right, I'm ready to run through a wall. Thanks, Joe. Hey, leadership is when you do things that are leadershipy, you know, the little things. By the way, we do defense better than anyone. And pitching. Offense is going to need some work. Jason Wagner says, I know now we need a new manager. He's just not a good speaker, and I don't understand why someone in the Astros thought this was a good idea to post. It doesn't excite me, doesn't get me going. It's just low energy and boring. So who decided that was a good idea? I don't get it. Not a great one. We have to press the reset button again, guys, unfortunately.
Coach,
because we have now, once again, got Ime Udoka calling his players out after a loss. It had been, a nice 7-8 days since the last game of the first half of the year, the last game of before the All-Star break, where Ime Udoka called out his team after the game in a post-game press conference. Well, here he was on Saturday night after the Rockets lost to the bum-ass Utah Jazz, doing the same thing once again.
But it was ugly, embarrassing, non-competitive game all the way around.
How would you assess the defensive effort tonight?
Terrible, terrible, terrible.
Terrible, terrible, terrible. But I like Udoka more than I like Espada because I like that he calls the guys out. Maybe he doesn't do it with a lot of pep in his voice, but I feel like the guys hear Ime Udoka and listen. I feel like a lot of people around the NBA respect him. And with Espada, I don't know. There's just something that's missing, at least when he speaks. Again, he's the manager. Dana Brown is the general manager. The manager does what the general manager asks him to do, and maybe Dana Brown actually has a good plan going into this year. Jason Wagner says, imagine Belichick saying some shit like that. Wait, you can't. On the contrary, I love me some Udoka. You did spell that correctly, sir. Daniel Oliveira says the Rockets are fine. They are fine. It's just funny that Udoka is calling him out every 5 fucking seconds. This also went viral, and some of the usual suspects got pissy about this. And by usual suspects, I mean the pissed off Turkish Rockets fans who are constantly angry about fucking everything. Here is Ime Udoka being asked a very weird question, especially considering the Rockets had just lost to a 14-win team.
Coach, the Rockets have a young and talented team.
I love how the preface to that question is the Rockets have a young and talented team, and then he just sniffs. One more time in case you missed it.
Coach, the Rockets have a young and talented team.
That smirk, that sneer. Doesn't want to hear it tonight.
What has been the biggest challenge in developing these players, and what aspects do you think will take them to the next level?
Consistent competitiveness and taking a jump in the IQ department.
Taking a jump in the IQ department. Jeez, dude. He must have been so pissed hearing that question. Who asks that question after you lose by nearly 10 points to a team with 14 wins? And again, it's the second night of a back-to-back, but that was a weird question to ask. What did you think Udoka was going to say? If you're asking him that question in that spot, you know who Ime Udoka is. He's probably not going to say anything fun. Definitely not going to say anything rosy or sunshiny, you know? I like that he calls him out. It's just funny that it feels like he has to do it every week. And that, much like at certain work environments, you have a sign where it says days since last accident. You need to have one for Udoka. Days since last calling out entire team to the media. And I think everyone's on Udoka's side. This team's young. They're ahead of schedule. But there's definitely room to question at what point do we start to wonder if this doesn't work, if he's saying this over and over again. Does this style work? Definitely doesn't lend itself to the best regular season basketball to be this intense over the course of a regular season. You know, it's definitely less of a marathon for the Rockets. They're a lot more aggressive and intense on defense than some of these other teams that maybe know when to coast and when to not coast. But I don't like that there are enough teams in the NBA that are maybe mailing in the effort on a night-to-night basis because they know that the real prize is what happens at the end of the playoffs. I'm curious as to how many teams could actually go through a whole season with the kind of intensity that Udoka is trying to install in his players. And it's good to install it. I think you want these guys to have this mindset going forward that if you don't play well, it will be called out, and it always should be called out. And it should have been called out with Steven Silas, and it wasn't until it was too late, which is a bummer. So there you go, guys. Pretty slow day in sports. And I've got to figure out what it is that I can talk about on this show that's a little more fun. Because talking about the Astros in spring training, I just don't think it's going to cut it. I mean, that trade report, it wasn't even a report. It was just a couple of rumors. And the rumors really that the Astros are slightly more interested than they were before. So with that in mind, we're going to wrap up a little bit earlier today. We have one more Gallant Says podcast episode this week. It'll be tomorrow. Then coming out of the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no shows those 3 days. I'm going to take the 3 days off. And on the other side, we're gonna give you the show that you've always been looking for. I've been trying to be consistent with doing this every day. Now I got to find, after doing the radio show, a way to actually give you compelling content now that football season's done, and especially with baseball season very far away from us. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. If you haven't liked my YouTube video or subscribed to the channel, please do so. You can also do it on Twitch if you're a Twitcher, at Gallant Says. On X and Twitter, I'm at Gallant Says. I'm on Instagram at Sports Gallant, and on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. You can catch this show Monday through Friday, generally weekdays at 4 p.m. Central Time. It's also available after the fact wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Next time around, if you want to cut me off mid-thought, you can super chat me. I'll play this button.
Paul, stop talking. Listen.
And I'll get to your comment right away. If you like this in podcast form, check it out on Apple or Spotify. Subscribe, rate, and review if you haven't. Until tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Time, so long, farewell,